recording has started, so welcome everyone again to your favorite webinars. How about some marketing sessions? As you know, it's the last Thursday of month of January already. The first month of 2024 has passed uh, in a blink of an eye. I'm really excited about today's section. Roxana is a very close friend. She's an amazing coach, and I'm really excited about all the information she will be sharing tonight. Before passing along the virtual microphone, I do want to take a moment and ask you to go to howaboutsommarketing.com, subscribe to our newsletter, and follow us on social media if you haven't already. That's where you'll get all of the relevant information. Now, before introducing, in my own words, our guest tonight, I'd like to read the official, the official introduction that we have to give you some more context about it, about who she is. So, Roxana is the founder of All Personal, a Canadian award-winning leadership and team coaching and training company, helping corporate team leaders and startup co-founders boost leadership skills, team communication, impact, motivation, and performance for long-term thriving results. I'm going to drop the full description in the chat, but I do want to take a couple of minutes to tell about the experience. The first time I was introduced to Roxana by a mutual friend, I was actually a guest on her All Personal podcast, and the title of the episode is called All Personal, and it marked the first interview I did since coming to Canada. So it represented the first step of a continuous successful series of me appearing as a guest on different shows and now hosting my own. Now I'm gonna put the spotlight on Roxana, and I'll ask her to simply start the presentation at the spotlight, and I believe we're good.
All right. Thank you. And I just want to say congratulations on starting your journey, your speaker journey with the All Personal podcast. And I can see that, by the way, sharing is disabled. So can I share
I
the...
understand. Give me
You
one
can
second.
give me power.
Yes.
Um,
Until I
I,
do that, maybe you wanna make
I,
a proper introduction of yourself.
yeah. So just to shortly introduce myself, and I'm really excited to be here tonight. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And as a short introduction, I think you said it. I just for me, my most of my background is in learning and development. Back in my corporate days, I used to work in international law firms in learning and development. I used to head the firm-wide learning and development department, and then and that was when we used to live in Romania. My background is Romanian. That's where I'm originally from. My last name is Radulescu, so you can tell by the Escu that I'm Romanian. That's a clear sign. So I used to work with a lot of people in Central Eastern Europe, Western Europe, parts of Asia, and used to put together a lot of leadership development programs, coaching programs, communication workshops, team workshops. Then in 2017, we moved to Canada, and that's where also my entrepreneurial journey also started to unfold, initially as a side business. And then back in 2019, I became full-time in All Personal, delivering individual coaching on leadership development, and also group coaching for mid to senior managers and business co-founders, and team coaching most recently. So that's it in a nutshell. And I would really love to hear from everybody who is here tonight as I start sharing
And it works, so
my
we can
screen
form.
with you. Yeah? Okay, thank you for letting me know. So I would really love to know who's in the house with us live, and also for anyone who is not joining us live but watching the recording, just to think about why they're here and why this was an interesting topic for them to attend. So if you can share with us in the chat, and then Emmanuel will also be able to facilitate that conversation, it would be great to see what's your why for being here tonight.
So David already answered. He said, fitting that you are in learning and development. I'm attending this evening from downtown Toronto when I'm attending the Ontario Library Association conference, and a smile face.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being here. You chose wisely, David.
Yes.
Small world.
Amazing. Yeah. All right. So here's what we're gonna talk about, and we do have Q&As, but what I would like to do is make it as interactive as possible since you joined us online. So feel free to interrupt, comment, ask your questions as we go through the presentation, because the whole point of this is to make it clear for you, to make it practical so you can use something out of tonight. So what we're going to start with is we're going to look at, first of all, why assessment tools in the first place, and then again a little bit of why not. We're going to look at the top 5 that we promised for tonight, but we're going to look at it from the point of view of what do we want to use, what for, and then when is the best case scenario for that particular assessment for us to use. And how can we assess business impact? And I'm going to let you know about an assessment that measures impact, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit. But I'm excited about it because we haven't been able to measure impact before. So, and that's interesting, especially when looking at teams and businesses. What I find it most interesting is for small to medium businesses, and especially where we have 2 co-founders. So let's kick it off, and let's see, first of all, why assessment tools. And they usually come in handy when we want to make people decisions that are well informed. And as you may know, we typically, when we look at people decisions, we want to measure, and we've had assessment tools for personality, for measuring people's experience, expertise, or skills. And now we can also measure people's impact in a team, in an organization, in a business. So what I will say right off the bat, whenever you're even considering assessment tools, first of all, ask yourselves, what do you want to measure? What do you want to use them for? Because an assessment tool is just that, it's a tool. And it will speak to you depending on the context that you're in. So think about your top 3 goals, top 3 business goals, or top 3 challenges, or both. And then the results of any assessment tool out there will make more sense if you look at the context. Otherwise, we're just looking at some numbers or labels or letters, but we don't see much except when we look at the context, so that it gives us a little bit more depth. So a good question to ask would be, so what? Okay, so if I use this assessment, what am I going to do with it? So now that we know this about each other as individual members of this team, what do we do with that? What do we do with that information? How can we use it in this business context, in this team context? So always think about assessment tools as in terms of what are your goals, what the purpose is for you, and then decide what you're going to use and how you're going to use that. Because what we want to do is make people decisions that are well informed, that are not going to end up costing us a lot of money. And for those of you, and it's good to know that somebody's from Toronto, because David, you might recognize this photo of Kyle Lowry from the Toronto Raptors basketball team. This was back in 2019, which is the team that won the NBA championships that year. So I would like to invite you to think about the team that you're in, the team that you want to build, the team that you want to expand, your team of co-founders maybe, or yourself as a team of, maybe you're a solopreneur, you're wearing different hats. So think about that team as well. But think about it in terms of not just people, but business, because any kind of people decisions end up being really important business decisions in any size of an organization, from hiring, from pre-hiring all the way to firing or parting ways. Because you might pick people on the team who gel well together, who know how they can make their best contribution on a team, who resonate with your culture and your values and bring you the results. They bring you the championship title home. Or you might spend a lot of time and energy, which also translates into a lot of money maybe, trying to different ways in which you might bring people in, you might let them go, and then you might bring somebody else in, and then you let them go, just because there doesn't seem to be a good fit. So that's why I wanted to use this particular photo, because you might think about your team, whatever that team is in your context. What if you are building a high-performing team? What does that look like? What do you want people to bring when they join your team? What are they going to be there for? What do you want them to do once they're hired? Is there any way in which you can develop them and help them grow? Because truth is, everybody wants to grow. In any kind of organization. How are you going to promote them? Based on what? How are you going to maybe move them laterally, if not hierarchically, in the organization? What is it that they can do next? And how do you decide how you're going to part ways when you just simply realize you don't align anymore on either the mission, vision, values, or maybe they just see a different way for themselves to grow somewhere else? And perhaps you can collaborate from different organizations rather than from the same one. But the truth is, all of these decisions will have an impact on your business one way or the other. We have loads of research on how much a bad hire ends up costing. And we have a lot of research about how much firing somebody the ugly way ends up impacting the business, the reputation, the bottom line even. So that's where people decisions, they're going to be really important business decisions that we're making. And that's where some of these assessments will come in handy. But what I will say is they cannot be your only source for making people decisions. They can help you, but you have to factor in the culture fit, how people fit with your team, with how you do things in your team or in your business. And you have to also think about, what's the culture add? What else are they bringing that I haven't even thought about, or that we don't even have here, which might be a good fit, which might help enrich us as a team or as a business or as an organization. So but please don't use assessment tools and then, I'm going to hire this person because I've seen in their assessment that they're this, on that. No, these are add-ons. Never use them just by themselves and then, okay, that's it. That helped me make the decision. So I want to stop here for a little bit and see if we have any questions.
We actually do.
Awesome.
I have one very good one. I'm going to be reading it out loud.
Yeah.
I think so. There's also a Q&A section, but David has put in the chat a comment. I think one of the most important functions of assessments is the role they can play in the facilitation of a meaningful conversation and to provide insights to enable and encourage more participatory self assessments by members of the team. Ideally, there wouldn't be many occasions of needing to forcefully move someone out if we can help them come to that conclusion on their own.
Well, and thank you for that comment, because that's exactly the idea, right? We want to facilitate conversations, or we want to think about, and when we talk about business impact, I'm going to show you why I think that's an important insight to have, especially when you're looking to grow your team, for example, or when you're looking to make your relationships with team members more effective, or to bring them to get that common language and understanding of where they come from. So yes, ideally, this is what we want to use them for. You can use assessments also for people development, right? They're great tools for self-awareness, for raising the level of awareness in general. About the minute I understand something about myself, I'm going to understand more things about other people too, simply because of that level of awareness. But so we can use them for different things, but they're all going to help us one way or another in making those people decisions in a way that is like a flow, like it's going to be smoother for everybody, rather than everybody starting to build walls around them to protect themselves. Then they open the door for conversations. I love that. Okay. Anything else, or can we move
I
on?
think we can move along, but great comments, David. Thank you so much for the feedback. And we had since have a few new participants, so we want to say hello to them and let them know that they can interact and ask questions in the Q&A session or in the chat.
Yeah, perfect. All right. And, since we also talked about, what are assessments good for? Well, from my experience so far, these are some of the assessments that I've seen have worked in different, again, you have to consider the context. You have to consider your purpose. What do you want to measure? What do you want to look at? And who for? And what I find is there are a few assessments that are great for individuals for their own development, or they're better for individual development than for team development. Again, because there's only that much that you can do with the results of those particular assessments. And I'm going to show you, for example, a comparison here in a minute between a personality type assessment and the business impact assessment. But typically, when we look at people and what we want to assess, especially in a work context, ideally, we're not looking at personality, or not first. And the reason I say that is because usually we hire based on skills and experience, impact, knowledge, all of that kind of stuff. We rarely hire just based on personality, or I don't really suggest that you should hire anyone based on personality. First of all, because personality changes. It's the latest research shows us that. And second of all, because we want to look at behavior, at drivers, what the person brings, not at personality. Because the truth is, you might have different personality types, and still in your business, in your team, you might have a similar kind of impact, or you might have a great impact. Personality has nothing to do with what you're capable of, or it has nothing to do with the skills that you have. It has to do with how you prefer to communicate, for example. But there are assessment for communication as well. So something like personality types that helps an individual become more self-aware and understand more about themselves, what they're great at, what comes easy to them, what they need to be working on, what their blind spots are. But if you start discussing personality in a team context, that can become even dangerous. And instead of facilitating the conversation, it might end up labeling people. And then you get a conversation that's getting nowhere, because the minute we start addressing personality, that's when people feel attacked. And in a way, that makes sense, because there's no way that we can understand fully somebody's personality. The reality is we only see the tip of the iceberg. We don't see what's underneath the water level, right? So the only person who knows most about their personality is that particular person. So when we start talking about personalities, that might take us into directions that we don't want to go into. So for Motivation Finder, that's a great assessment to use. And if you want to use it for a team at some point to do a team building exercise, that's great. For team development, that might work. Or team bonding, because people understand what motivates them most. Belbin this is an assessment that was developed in the 1950s, and it talks about people's behavior, especially in a team, how they behave, how they prefer to communicate, what roles they prefer to take in a team. So that's great for an individual to understand about themselves. And it's also great for understanding what roles we're taking in a team and how we're behaving in a team context. MBTI, I explained, that's a personality type. I strongly advise you to use it for your individual development, or you can talk to other people about using that for their own benefit individually. But be careful how you go about that conversation then, because personality, that is all personal. So it can get you into trouble if there are too many people discussing each other's personality. Social motivation, you want to look at that, especially when you feel that there's something for you as an individual. You feel that in your current role, in your current organization, you feel that you're not driven the direction in which you feel most aligned with. And what I mean by that is either status. For example, some of us might be driven by status. Some of us might be driven by autonomy. Some of us might be driven by the way in which we relate to other people. So that is a great self-awareness test, again, that is really, really beneficial when we're trying to decide, okay, why is it that I feel that things are not working right now? Where am I not aligned with how people are interacting with me, how I'm interacting with them? The Game Changing Index, or the GC Index, that's an assessment tool that has been developed in over the last 10 years or so. And I wish I knew about it back in my corporate days, because it would have saved us a lot of time and money and headaches, to be honest, because it doesn't look at personality. It looks at our energy for impact. Where are we more naturally inclined to contribute and to make our impact? What energizes us that doesn't feel like work, that we want to contribute in a team or in an organization, and that we also appreciate being valued for? So that's what we mean by impact. And that's what we can use with individuals and teams as well. I love it. In full transparency, I'm a partner to the GC Index. I'm a partner organization. And because I love it so much, because I can see the benefit of using it for individuals and teams. And I will let you know more about it in a minute. But I wanted to say you're gonna get all of the links to all of these assessments in the slides so that you can check them out. A lot of them have free versions, especially for individuals. The GC Index doesn't have a free version, but because I'm a partner, I'm offering you a gift link so you can experience it and see, if you want to try it out and see what it tells you about how you make your business impact and what your energy for impact is all about. And here's what I mean by that. So looking at the so what, let's say you're using the MBTI, which is the personality assessment, the Myers-Briggs type of personality types. There are 12 personality types if you look at the right box. That's the MBTI. And I've seen it used for team workshops, especially when it comes to team communication. And what I find is a lot of the times, instead of facilitating the conversation, it ends up getting in the way of people actually understanding how they can communicate with each other, because they start labeling themselves or the others in a way that is not necessarily helpful. And the labels I've heard most about are, I'm an introvert, or I'm more sensing, I'm not judging, or I'm more feeling, I'm not judging. And then for me, it's hard to be rational because I'm that. So I'm not gonna try, or I'm not even gonna try to understand where you're coming from, because this is me. And that's what it says about me. So that's where we need to be really, really careful when we use personality type assessments in a team context. For the GC Index, what it measures and how we can answer the so what question is, okay, so now that we know some results about our people, how does that help what we want to achieve, what we're trying to do in this business or in this team? Because it goes along the business cycle pretty well. So you have 5 dimensions with the GC Index, where you're looking at game changers, who are people who create original ideas or who want to look at what makes us different. How can we do this differently? There has to be a different way, or why not take this new possibility? And then, so from idea, you have the strategists then who make sense of these ideas, who are the people who map the future, who are able to prioritize and say, well, it might be a great idea, but not for now because we don't have the resources. Do we have the right resources? Do we have the right people? Do we have the money? Do we have the time? And then, okay, we're planning, we have the idea, we're planning, we're going to implement things, we're going to make them happen. So people who are really hands-on, who are going to ask, okay, what's the deadline? By when are we still going to, how long are we still going to be trying and testing this out? So really hands-on on getting things done. And then with people who might be more energized to polish, that means, how can we take this product or this service and make it even better, make it even more brilliant? How can we expand? What can we learn from this? How can we make this excellent? And then the playmaker, who will be somebody whose focus or whose priority is going to be thinking, okay, how can we have everybody involved and included in this conversation? How can we make sure that everybody else's voice is heard? And you get different dimensions of, and people resonate not just with one or the other. And the beauty of it is that there's 100,000 combinations of the GC Index dimensions. There are 5 dimensions, but the scale is from 1 to 10. So you're rarely going to have people who have an identical profile, and you will get to see how they can contribute in which cycle of the business or of the project that you're working on. You see what their focus is and their priorities are, and where their blind spots might be, where maybe you have the focus, or maybe that's your priority. So it's, again, depending on what you want to measure, I would say start with helping people understand how they're contributing when they're at their best and they feel at their best, so that they understand what you understand, what they want to be valued for, so that they understand more about why they feel like that when they focus on one thing or another. And it invites to team conversations that otherwise are just simply not there. And I'm going to leave you with some guiding questions at the end of tonight, so that you can facilitate those conversations with the team. But that would be the main difference between impact and personality. And another example would be the comparison with Belbin and the GC index. Belbin, again, it talks to you about how people prefer to communicate and take roles depending on whether they're focused on social or thinking or action. But it doesn't tell you much about what does this mean for our team, for the project that we're in, for the challenges that we have, for the goals that we have right now. They might work together hand in hand and be quite complementary. But again, I would say in a business order, this is what I've noticed works best when it comes to when do you want to use one assessment over another. And I find that with the GC index, you can use it in any kind of business phase to complement the information that you already have, to help you make your people aware of themselves and how they make their best impact and contribution, how you do it, and how you can do that as a team and work better together. So you can use it in any business phase. You can use it if you're a one-person business, if you have a co-founder, or if you're trying to grow your team as well. But that helps you start in the beginning of the movie. With any other assessment, it's as if you start in the middle of the movie, because you don't know what people actually want to contribute, what they feel that they can contribute, and what you might also want them to contribute, because that's how they bring their best selves into your team and into your organization. We talk about that a lot. But that's where knowing the profiles with the GC index, it really helps you start the conversation from the beginning of the movie, not from the middle of it. With the rest of the assessments, use them. But know that, for example, Belbin works very well when you're trying to develop or promote your team members. With the others, they work very well for one-on-one professional and personal development. And that's really valuable too. If you want to grow people into more senior roles, that is perfect. But you want to be careful what you use when, in which business phase, so that it makes best sense to you. Okay. I'm going to stop here for a little bit.
Right, a small commercial break. We do have some questions and I do have some comments, but I do want to take this opportunity to share my screen and promote the next session, the next event that will happen on a very special date, a date that only happens once every 4 years, and that's February 29th, 2024. So last Thursday of each month, where we're going to have an event called Hardwired for Stories. And our special guest speaker will be Michelle Spear. And she's a excellent storyteller. I've been privileged to be working with Michelle on several projects. So if you are subscribed to the newsletter, then you'll be receiving all the information, but I'll be dropping the registration link here in the chat. And please join, subscribe, and give feedback to these sessions because they do help me a lot, improving with each event. We are at our 7th event, actually. 7 months have passed since we started, so we're growing. I feel like we're better with each session on sessions. I do want to say a couple of words before moving forward with the questions, or do you want to take the questions now or at the end? It's up to you. I think I've removed the spotlight so you're not hold on, give me a second. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. Okay.
Yes. Do you want to take the questions now or at the end?
Yeah, sure. Let's take some questions now, and then we can take some more questions at the end, make it more interactive.
I do want to say a couple of words before that. So I'm a big fan of assessments. I've read Ray Dalio's Principles, and that book I think it changed something in me because it framed everything in a way that it made sense to me. And assessments are a big part. So naturally, I've tried to learn as much as I can about assessments. And Roxana's recommendation, I did the GQ index, and it painted the picture very clearly about who I am, what I'm good at, and where should I focus on. So I highly recommend taking this opportunity that Roxana give. Yeah, she's very generous in actually giving us the opportunity to access that assessment. And I'll let her talk about it more. But let's move. Let me put Roxana back to the spotlight so she can speak. And let's take the question one by one, and they'll be appearing on the screen. So we have one from someone anonymous. AI does one a lot better than the other. AI, I'm assuming, is artificial intelligence, or maybe perhaps there's a test called AI. I don't know.
If there is, I don't know about it. So, but yeah.
There's a wink at the end also.
Exactly. So it really depends when this comment was made.
Yes.
See, okay, we have some more clarity now.
You can drop a link in the comment. Also, somebody shared the Adobe Creative Type. This is a good one too, and I did that test. I'm assuming you're familiar with it as well.
Yeah.
And I saw that all these big companies from Google and Meta, probably they have internal type of assessments unique, but Adobe and I believe Salesforce, they made available some of their own assessment tools as well. So maybe you want to comment on this a little bit.
I really love the My Creative Type because it's and also see that's one that also facilitates a conversation in a different way. So that's good. For example, if you have a small team that you want to help gel together, that's a great assessment to take, and then just have a conversation around that, because I find that, and I did that with my family members too, and with one of my collaborators, and we really resonated with that too. And it really explains a lot of why you do things the way you do them, right? So, and it's a great self-awareness tool. Thank you for mentioning it. I had forgotten about it.
We have another with anonymous comment. Thank you. And the next one, a really good one. I think you'll enjoy this one. How does the GQ index translate into real world results for teams compared to MBTI?
Oh, okay. Let me show you. Because that's exactly what I wanted to share with you. So that's a great question. Thank you for building a bridge towards our next section of this short presentation that I know I talk a lot, but I could talk about it all day. So here's an example. And this is a real life example. I worked with two co-founders in a recruiting startup a couple of years back. And let me tell you what this means when you look at this picture. So they were both very focused on polishing. So that means a lot of attention to quality, a lot of attention to how we can make things better, how we can expand, how we can grow, how can we do, how can we become excellent by innovating, by taking what we're offering right now and making it bigger and better. Co-founder B was also a really high game changer. So what that meant for her was she had a lot of ideas of how they can be different, of what else they can do, or what they need to change and how they need to change it, or how many different things they would be able to do. What is their differentiator in the market compared to other recruiting organizations that were bigger than them? So she was having all of these brilliant ideas and solutions, looking to transform the way in which recruiting is done, basically. And she had the ability to already not just implement them, but also take them to the next level. What that did in their dynamic between co-founder A and co-founder B was that co-founder A was taking and was using his energy in also getting things done and in also bringing things to a level of, okay, I understand we need to develop these things, but there are deadlines that we need to follow. There are things that we need to get done. That way we need to try and test things before we start improving and growing. There has to be a certain specific way in which we do things. Now, the pluses for them as a team of co-founders were that some of the, from the conversation that I had with them, were that, yes, they had that drive to deliver high quality. They have that drive to focus on how they can do things differently. Co-founder A had a little bit of game changer energy in that he could see where co-founder B was going with what she was saying about, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to change. And he also had a little bit of energy for strategy, for prioritizing, for thinking, okay, is this a good idea for now? Is this something that we want to try now or later? So yes, those were big parts that they were really aligned on, and it was really helpful for them. But here's where the minuses were, and that's where this made a lot of sense for them too, because it felt either that there was no long-term planning or strategy, or that they were moving from planning one thing today to planning something completely different tomorrow. And also, their goal was to grow their team. So they came to me and said, Roxana, we have no idea how to manage people. We've never done that, and we know we're not good at it. And it's not because they didn't have the skills. They're brilliant leaders. They now have, so when I worked with them, there were 7 people on their team. Now they're a team of over 50 people. It's not because the lack of skills, but it's because of the lack of focus. Because for them, they were not necessarily focused on the playmaker, on orchestrating others, on involving other people's ideas and contributions. They were focused on building the business, idea, implementation, expansion, idea, implementation, expansion, some planning because we need it. But how do we communicate that well enough to our people? How do we make sure that our people are able to voice the risks that they see or the disagreements that they might have? One of them, and which is the co-founder B, literally said, well, I don't have time to listen to people's ideas. I don't have time to ask them. And this is where she said, okay, but now I understand why it feels like that to me. And now I understand, okay, there's points that I focus on, which is the differentiation and making things differently and expansion and growth. And then there's things that are a blind spot for me. I don't even think about those. So that's where they were working very well together as a pair of co-founders. And then again, as a team of co-founders, they decided, okay, we need to understand how we can build some of the skills that are necessary for us to make sure that we include our people in the conversation, because we cannot keep doing things in this team of two, because otherwise they would be in burnout and they would have no talented people who actually stay in their team.
I believe that answered the question.
I hope so.
To the satisfaction of the person who asked. We do have some questions / comments. I'll try to go as quick as possible. We do want to be on time here. I'm assuming nobody will be upset if we go past 1 hour mark, because we started a little bit late, but I'll be as brief as possible. So one is, I used to apply this type of content in the context of bringing D&I don't know what that is, to life, to actually
Diversity and inclusion.
Diversity and inclusion. Okay. To actually realize the superior outcomes diversity should enable, but so often falls short of when people simply stick with like-minded people. I also use it to coach empathy and reliability skills by having salespeople try to predict which traits most closely align with certain clients' prospects to help them. And there's a second part, predict possible sources of objection, key interest drivers, emotional influences, personal motivators, etc. Thank you so much. This is a very engaging comment. I'm assuming other questions, but if you want to address that, Roxana.
I will, because I think that's an important conversation to have. And it's exactly that. And I want to show you something that's related to that comment too. Because what we see, let's look at this team right here. And this is why, again, this is why I love using the GC index, because I haven't seen a tool that goes that deep into people's values and beliefs and motivations that we can use in the context of business and getting results. So this was a team that was really focused on game-changing ideas and solutions and doing things differently and getting things done. So what they would do, they were what we call a creative problem-solving team. And they had this drive for coming up with new products or new services. What else can we do? What else can we do? And getting that done and implement them right away without necessarily spending too much time on strategy, on involving other people and seeing who agrees with it, who aligns with it, who has anything to say, any complaints, any risks, anything like that. So the most of their energy that they would spend in their team meetings, in their regular team meetings, would be on what can we do different? What do we need to change? What's a different solution that we haven't thought of? And how can we get it done? They had some focus also on, what is something that we came up with, that we invented, we got done, and now we might even improve. So that was the polishing bit, the yellow bit, where you see the 20%. But their focus most of the time in their team meetings was on thinking outside the box, doing things differently, thinking how they can make a difference and getting things done. And you can imagine that those people who are the 10%, they still have had people on the team who were better or bigger strategists, where their focus was, I can see patterns, I can see the trends, I can see the priorities very easily, but you're just not asking me. You're just not talking about it. And I might open my mouth and say something once or twice, but when I see that for the rest of the team, what I say doesn't matter, or nothing happens once I say something, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop saying it. And this is when we talk about psychological safety, this is important to understand, especially in a team context. What are we focused on when we are meeting as a team? And what are our blind spots that don't have to be blind spots? Because we actually do have people on the team who have something to say about it. We just need to create the space for them to express what they see and be able to, for us to be able to listen to what they have to say, even when that's not our natural inclination. This is why I love it, because first of all, it creates that common language and framework that people can use. And then usually when they look at the results, individual results, and then as a team, the reaction that I'm getting is, oh, so now I know why, for example, a tension between an implementer, what you see, the 30% here and the 20%, the polishers. Now I understand why you are asking me to, okay, we need to deliver this. We need to get it done. We need to send this to the client. Because for you as an implementer, this is really important. Deadlines are important. Getting things done, tangible results, those are important. For a polisher, quality is important. And they have a hard time settling for the good enough. So understanding that is for me to understand that, okay, I need to help you settle for the good enough. And we need to be able to have that conversation. But that's why I loved David's comments at the beginning of the session, because it's all about facilitating conversations, about helping people understand not just themselves and each other's better, but also understand themselves in the context of what we're trying to achieve here as a team, what I love to be valued for, and just letting people in my team know, hey, you know what? I really love it when you're asking me for my opinion and how we can do things differently and how we might strategize that and plan it for the next quarter. I really love it. And I really love it when I make my impact that way. For me, as a game changer strategist, that is where my energy typically rolls. That's easy to do. And I love being valued for that. And it's also important for me to know that I have a lower energy for implementation and polishing, which is great for me to know that that might be a blind spot. It's not that I can't implement or I can't polish, but if I had a choice, I would delegate that. I would leave that to somebody who's energized by it instead of being drained by it. So, and do we want a team that is energized by the work that they do instead of being frustrated by the work that they do? I think so. So this is where this is so much different than an MBTI personality assessment that takes you into, oh, you're an introvert, that's why you don't do that and you do the other. Or that's why you're too loud and you talk a lot because you're an extrovert. And then what does that mean for the business? What does that help us in this team right now? How does that help us move things forward?
We still have two more questions.
Yes. Go ahead.
I'll start actually with the last one, which is a praise. Thank you for this great info. This was very, very helpful. Thank you for that comment. Also, we have an answer. This was regarding technical skills versus emotional skills. I think it's referring to the AI initial comment. So when you talk about the technical skills versus emotional, AI can do it better, probably. And here's one more example of a comment. Basically, I'll call it comment, not a question, but Anonymous says, I was on a call with a VC fund this afternoon, and they specifically said they look for companies with at least 2, ideally 3 co-founders with highly complementary skills, typically technical products, sales / marketing / partnerships, and ops / finance / governance.
Yeah. Well, that is where this will apply better if you're looking at, and this is where the GC index is also used in exactly in this kind of context where you're trying to look at, let's say you want to hire, in this case, co-founders, but also, I don't know, a director for a company, or bring in another co-founder on the team. And you look at all of the skill sets. Of course, you don't just hire them based just on this, but it might help you where you have people with similar skill sets, with similar experiences. It might make it easier for you to make a decision that's better informed, simply because it tells you, okay, if we hire this person, how are they going to contribute, and do we need that? In that is where it has to be aligned with what you're trying to achieve in that particular business, and what do you want those people to do. And I said I'm gonna leave you with some questions here as well. So, and you will have these. So for you as a solopreneur, for a team of minimum 2, not to mention for bigger teams, these are some great questions to ask to facilitate the kind of conversations that you want to have facilitate. This, you can do that whether you're using the GC index or not. I find that these questions, in the context of looking at our business impact and what we contribute in our team and in our business, those make even more sense, and they help teams gel well together and really work well together. But regardless of any assessment, these are great questions to ask in any kind of team context. So for those of you who want to try out the GC index for yourselves, this is what I'm offering, because I really think it makes, as Emmanuel was saying, it makes perfect sense. I rarely had somebody who said, oh no, I don't recognize myself in this, and I don't see how I'm making this kind of impact. But what I do find, though, is when people look at others' results on their team, they're usually surprised it helps them see those people in a different light, that is more inviting to conversation, that gives people more benefit of doubt, and it helps them build trust and psychological safety in that team. So you'll get the link, and you have the how about some marketing code that gives you 100% off. So
thank you so much. You're very generous, Roxana. What's the value of this assessment?
The financial value.
Financial, yes, yeah, the one that you're giving it for free.
It typically is $450 for the assessment and the strategy session with me.
Priceless, as somebody just commented. So
I'm happy you think so. That's great to hear.
Made the comment. So
I think so too, by the way. I think this is priceless, and that's why I wanted to just maximize that impact. So I'm offering it for you.
You're very generous. So please go to the link. I'm going to be sharing the link and the presentation with everybody who has been subscribed. One comment I'd like to make before wrapping everything up and finishing today's session. I often make, for those who read my newsletter, know that I often make comparisons with football when it comes to business. In terms of strategy, in terms of approaching something, I do believe that we should learn more in business from the football, how much they fight for one player, let's say. When I mean football, I mean the European football.
The soccer.
What's called, yes, in North America, but that's a different game. I'm going to let everyone know my opinion on that some other time. But keeping the parallel with football, where your position is based on position. You're a goalkeeper. Let's say a team needs a goalkeeper. They look for a goalkeeper. They won't look for a striker to put him to be a defender, right? So I believe this is the analogy that can be understood by many small to medium-sized business owners when it comes to choosing the right person that will fit their team, their football team, their business team. And at the end of the day, it can be even a 1 person, 2 person team, right? Even 1 person. I used to, when I was by myself, I used to divide myself, giving different roles, make an organizational chart and fill that organizational chart with my name for all the positions. So that's that. Roxana, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to have you as a guest here. I cannot emphasize a lot on the value that you have shared tonight, but also the financial value that you give away by letting us access that assessment. I might take it again because why not? I'll take every opportunity before wrapping everything up. Any final words?
First of all, thank you for having me, and it was great to hear from everybody, and to see the interaction tonight. Thank you for that. I really love it when we can connect even virtually. So yeah, I think we all got a dash. So thank you for being here.
Where can people find you?
And I'm everywhere, but typically just go to personalskillscoach.com. That's my website. That's where you find me. Otherwise, you also find me on LinkedIn, Roxana Radulescu. But just my website that's gonna cut it. And if you click on the GC Index link, we'll connect anyway, because I need to send you the gift link, and then we need to get to the strategy session, so you can connect with me that way too.
You must know by now, howaboutsmarketing.com is the place where this video and the transcript with links to connect with Roxana will be available. Over there, if you go to the website, and by the way, after 6 months of actually doing these webinars, I decided to start working on the website whenever I have a chance. You'll see a newsletter subscription form. If you haven't done so, please subscribe, because all the relevant information, follow-up information, and info about the upcoming events will be shared there. Until January 29th, Thursday, starting 7 p.m., when we're going to have the next session, Hardwire for Stories. Thank you for attending, and